You guys ever feel like you're stuck? You have a weight on your foot and you just cannot move forward? Not me, motherfuckers. What's going on, boys and girls, and welcome back to feekiflips, the most dumbed down real estate channel on all of YouTube, because if I can make money doing this, then so can you. We are back today, and I'm going to do a little vlog on Airbnbs, and I will start this one off by saying I don't know jack shit about Airbnb. We have one of them, about to have two more, which we're about to get into later in the video. That being said, I'm probably about 6 months late for the clickbait title on this video, because I've heard a lot about Airbnb bust from a few months back, but not so much anymore. But either way, what we're going to do, I'm going to take you guys through my Airbnb experience with our first unit. We'll hop on the screen recording deal so we can run through the gross revenue that it's pulling in versus the market rent, all that type of stuff. And then later we have a new construction duplex that is just about finished, and I haven't even fucking seen the thing. It's been months since I've been over there. I heard that it's basically done. I don't think it's furnished yet, but either way, we'll run over there. I'll give you a tour of inside of one of the units and kind of what we're thinking for the Airbnb play there, and why our unit and also these two new units that are about to go online will not be affected by any type of Airbnb bust. So yes, I know nothing about Airbnb. I have one, but other than that, I don't know shit about it. There's plenty of people on YouTube that specialize in Airbnb, and that's the thing, I'm sure you guys can relate about the internet, is that if people specialize in something, all they talk about is how great it is, for good reason, because if you're a specialist in one strategy, you're gonna know all the ins and outs of it to make it great. But then you can find the other people that say that that same strategy really sucks. So it's really easy to get too far out in the weeds on some of this stuff, where you really just need to make an educated decision on strategy, on like what works for you in this moment of time. You can always pivot the strategy later. So before we get into numbers and how this Airbnb is actually doing, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. So we have a 4-unit building that is in really close to downtown Reno. I don't know if you'd consider it downtown, but it's 2 blocks away from downtown. So as far as the location goes for an Airbnb, absolutely fucks. And the property is actually 3 units in one building and then a standalone single family house. So really the backstory on this building is we bought it to flip it. Obviously we still have it years later because it's a good rental for us, and those are very rare in our area here in Reno, Nevada, just because of property values to the rates that you can get for rents. As soon as we bought this place, one of our tenants dies, and this is our first experience with rentals or tenants at all. All we've done up until this point is wholesale and flip single family homes. Never have had a rental or a tenant or anything like that. And 2 weeks into owning this thing, we get a call from one of the other tenants that said, hey, so-and-so in this other unit died. As you can imagine, we didn't know what the fuck to do, but contacted the family. They came and got, whatever little bit of stuff that they wanted from the guy's unit, and then we just rehabbed the unit. And by the time we were done rehabbing the unit, and mind you, these units cost a fucking fortune to rehab because this building is like a 1920s building. Floor plan's been rearranged a million times. So when you're dealing with property like that, you're just opening up Pandora's box when you rehab it, because like you're fixing 100 years of 15 other people's fuckery at the same time. So what should be like a very inexpensive and cheap rehab, because we're talking about such a small unit here, ends up costing us $30,000 just to do one unit. So the unit gets rehabbed, and then by that time we were like, hey, it would actually be pretty nice to have a place to work, because we were just working from home. And we had mixed use zoning on this property, is one of the reasons that we actually bought it and then decided to keep it. So we ended up just moving into this place as our office for about a year. And the unit is really just a very small 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. And I think it's 400 square feet or maybe even a little bit less. So very small, but it was okay for the 3 of us, I think we had back then, just to have somewhere to go work, just to break it up. I'm not a fan of work from home. Personally, it's Saturday right now. I still come to the office even though I don't have to work, just to work on things that I could easily do at home. I like the separation. My partner Wes likes the separation, so it was really nice just to have somewhere to go to work. So basically we outgrew the spot and moved into an actual real office now. And we decided when we moved out, obviously we didn't have to rehab it again because it was still brand new from when we rehabbed it before, but we didn't have an Airbnb. We had a few other long-term rentals. The other 3 in this parcel, this property, basically pay for the mortgage, and anything we were going to get on top with this one unit was going to be profit for the company. So we decided to test it on Airbnb just because, 1, it's a great location for it, and 2, being so small, it would be very inexpensive to furnish it. Okay, so this is the unit that we're talking about here. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I think we spent like 10 G's furnishing this thing. I think the furnishings are way more expensive than most people think when they get into Airbnb. But just a couple of tips and tricks that I do know about this business. One, we hired a co-host right from the jump. Me personally, I don't want to fucking do anything. Like, that's the whole point of working as hard as we do and taking all this risk and doing all this stuff and building businesses. Any type of like active management, I want no part of it. So we hired a co-host local here in town. If you're in Northern Nevada, feel free to shoot me a message and I'll get you a referral or whatever. But learning from them, they say, like even just this is important. Having like a title or like a name of your property, because that's how you can get like repeat business on an Airbnb. So one, it has to be themed. So this thing, you can see it's nothing crazy because, we did regular flip finishes in here before we turned it into an Airbnb. Like I said, we didn't touch really we did some touch up paint and stuff, but we didn't rehab the unit when we moved out of it from our office. So if you can take away all the furnishings, it's basically just a flip. LVP, gray and white, new kitchen, new bathroom, basic shit. But we have this designer that we use on some of our higher end flips, and then for the Airbnb that we're about to go show you guys in just a second, that's going to be way better than this because it's actually themed from all the finishes too, not just the furnishes. But you can see in here, just with the furnishes that she picked out for us, the color palette and all that stuff, it is somewhat themed with like some earthy stuff. So it's like earthy tones everywhere. It has little knickknacks for the, I don't know if those are like antlers or whatever, but mushrooms, and just, the more you look, it's just kind of that like little cottage, worldly bungalow type thing, I guess. I don't know. And we had a different backsplash in here. I know they put that in for the Airbnb just to match it a little bit better, but you can see how it is themed just a little bit. Go through these photos here. Another tip that I've picked up from, just doing some research and stuff is like your number of guests is super important that you allow. So obviously we have, a bed here. And then it's funny because we actually swapped this floor plan. As I'm talking about this, I'm remembering more and more. So this is my old office right here, but this is actually the bedroom in here. And then this is like considered the living area, but they went back and forth a few times about like TV placement and just like the best usage of this space. And since it's an Airbnb, it's like a hotel anyway, we're not like advertising it as a 1-bedroom apartment like you would as a long-term rental. So we can really do whatever the fuck we want with the space. So this is the bedroom, which is super tiny. And I think that's why they flip-flopped it, because you're going to get much more usage out of the space by putting the bedroom in the living room. And then right here, this is a little couch that pulls out into a bed too. So you can have a few more people stay or what have you. So I don't know what our max guess is in here, probably 4 or something. But for such a small little space, it's pretty useful. And that's why this floor plan is like so weird, because it's been changed a million times. Like I said, this definitely, I think this was a single family house at one point, and now it's 3 units. So it would be super interesting to have a time machine and be able to go back and see what it's been like for all these years. But it's just kind of a weird layout anyway. So again, this is just like the flip finishes here with the tile surround and like the newer vanity and all that stuff. And then they just put, these little things. They switched this out from when it was our office to match the rest of it and all that. So really nothing crazy, pretty basic. This is what I was talking about. We have 3 units here, and then this 1 unit right here. And then this is the entire property. So you can see how close it is to downtown. So location makes a great Airbnb. And then, so those 3 combinations really, the location for being close to a lot of events, the being themed with a name, and then also photos, super important. Just like in a listing, it blows my mind. People pay real estate agents 5 or 6% and they go in there with an iPhone, take photos. Photos are what sells everything, sells a listing. So we hired the same guy that we do for our listing photos to do the listing photos for the Airbnb. Imagine checking out this same unit with iPhone photos. Like, you would easily skip over it if you weren't like desperate to get a spot downtown. So photos, super important. Now, everything I just said is super important for staying out of the Airbnb bust. Just like any other industry, just like any other product, if you think of how many homes are listed, how many homes, spaces, whatever, are listed on Airbnb total, imagine the percentage of people that just like move out of their normal house and put it on Airbnb because they think that they can make more money that way. It's got to be like 90% of just average ass houses, shared spaces, stuff like that. And then for the other 10%, whatever it is, those are your themed and more like experience stays. So even with ours, that's like nothing extravagant. It's not this crazy thing like I'm about to show you. It still does really well, and it shows really well compared to most of the listings that are on Airbnb. And that's where people talk a lot of shit about Airbnb, and I get it, because up until about a year ago, I had the title for cheapest motherfucker on the planet. So I never want to overspend, or I'm not spending $500 on cleaning fees. So I get where the hate comes from, but also you have to remember the people that are professionals at Airbnb, they're the ones that everything I'm saying, that's like level 1 of their knowledge. They know how to max out everything without what most people are doing when they get into the Airbnb stuff, which is just like, they think it's like a quick cash grab. And it may have been like that back in the day, but as the economy starts to decline, it's not going to stay like that. And that's actually why I don't like Airbnb as like a main strategy, because 1, I'm not an expert in it, and 2, I don't like the idea of relying on someone else's company for my investment strategy's success. And also, it just seems very, very volatile for me. It seems like the opposite of Section 8, really, where Section 8 is like guaranteed rental income from the government, and that program's only going to grow in time. Personally, that's my opinion. Whereas Airbnb, if the economy goes down, obviously less people are traveling and stuff like that. So the way to combat that is by actually having an experience stay and be in that upper percentage of things. Because if you just have your normal ass house on there and you're charging like twice the amount for a cleaning fee and it's not a smoking deal, me, cheapest motherfucker on the planet, if I was looking for a place to stay, hell no, I'd rather just go to the hotel, because I don't want to stay at the regular ass house. And if I had the disposable income, even in a down economy, to be traveling and stuff like that, I would way rather be in an experience stay, something that's cool, than Joe Schmo's house in the middle of a neighborhood. And to further enforce what I'm saying, you can see here on the homepage of Airbnb, their first category is, oh my God. Second is caves. Third is play, lakefront, beachfront. You can see how all of these, like their whole model has shifted to these crazy places where you can stay. Like, look at this shit, is in a cave in the middle of nowhere. This crazy glass house, like anything on their homepage is much, much different than so-and-so that got relocated to a new city and they're like, I'm going to do Airbnb and I'm going to make so much money. Like, anyone that owns one of these, this is not their only property. These are your Airbnb professionals that know exactly what they're doing, or they're specifically building properties just for Airbnb. But it goes back, like, I'm staying in a UFO in Washington. Like, clearly it's a themed property with a name and all this other shit. And that is always going to fetch like a premium over just your regular house. And even when things decline and people stop traveling, people will keep on traveling to these crazy places where they have a story with it. So real quick before we go look at the new place, just so you guys can see how this little one is performing, just so and we have knowledge of this because of the other units in that building. One of the other units is very, very similar to this one, and it is pulling in $11.50 a month with a regular long-term lease. And that one actually rents for a little bit more because 1, it has washer dryer in the unit, and 2, it has off-street parking. And this unit that's the Airbnb has neither of those. So I would expect this unit to rent for about $1,000 a month for a regular long-term rental. So if we hop over into earnings real quick, we just got this thing live in December of 2022. So for your first months, we have, $2,700. And this is a brand new Airbnb account, no reviews. This is our only property, everything like that. So you can see all that. 2670, 24 months not over. May is already booked up higher. So I would say on average, from the small data set we have, December had 23 and we started like a couple days into the month. This thing grosses about $2,500 a month, but higher expenses because we have the co-host. So they take 15% of the gross rents. You have some cleaning fees and all that stuff. So on average, we pull in about $1,800 a month net, whereas we would have only been pulling in $1,000 a month on the long-term lease, and no property management is, 10% property management on average, depending on how many units you have for a long-term rental. So you can see there's another $100 off of there. So say 900 net versus 1,800 net. So we're getting about twice the amount of market rent for this small Airbnb unit. All right, guys, just pulled up to the project, so I will run some B-roll right now, and then we'll do a quick walkthrough and see how far along we are and what else we got to do before this one goes live on Airbnb. So obviously it's not quite as far along as I thought it was gonna be. Make sure to subscribe to the channel because I know we're gonna drop like a full 3 or 4 part series on this project, because this is like 2.5 years in the making just to get this thing built. But we'll still do a quick little walkthrough and kind of point out some of the stuff that's gonna make this one really attractive on Airbnb. So obviously just being new construction is going to be pretty nice on Airbnb, but since it is new construction, we were able to pick some of the finishes to go along to make it a cool Airbnb instead of the other one that we have, which was just basic flip finishes, and then only the furnishings is kind of what makes it cool. So you can see upstairs here in the bathroom, there's a lot of like pretty unique wallpaper and stuff around to just kind of differentiate it aside from just the furnishings. If you walk into the master bath, it's pretty crazy in here. Shower, super high ceilings. Like, this is gonna be a really, really nice spot for people to stay. So I don't really remember what the furnishings were, but you know, again, we use the same designer on this one to pick out everything along with the finishings and the furnishings. So everything in here is gonna look really, really nice once we get the listing live. Another thing, while we're still upstairs, we have double balconies. So you have one on this side and then one out on that side as well. Now remember, this is a duplex, so right on the other side of this wall, that's where the other unit is, and it's just a flipped mirror image of this unit. So actually the other unit has better views because there's not this there. So we have a ski resort up here called Mount Rose. You can actually see the Mount Rose wilderness from the other unit a little bit better. And then also you kind of have some downtown views that are poking out that are blocked by this house. In the other unit, you also have better downtown views. So I suspect that that other unit actually might rent for a little bit more, with the addition of this one other thing that we'll get to in just a second when we go downstairs. Downstairs in the same unit, so we actually have a washer dryer in here, which will be really nice if you're staying for a long time. And then this is a full other bedroom down here with the closet, and then a full other bathroom as well with this like crazy tile, slightly different color for the shower surround. And then you can imagine this is gonna look pretty cool once all the rest of the stuff is in here as well. So a couple of things from the outside, I really like how they did the stucco up here and then put the wood in here. It's a nice contrast. So the photos will look really nice from the outside as well. We also poured all of this concrete, so there'll be plenty of parking for the guests as well. And we did some stuff for our neighbor here. And then also each of these units have a 1-car garage that I think is double deep. So again, like, that'll be really nice that you would at least have some storage or lots and lots of parking for the guests. So now over to the other unit. This was what I was talking about. So this unit actually has a little side yard right here. So we're gonna do turf here and then put in some games. So not only will this one have better views from the balcony, it will also have the little yard that you can play games in. So that's why I think this one's gonna rent for a little bit more. And one final thing that I'm really excited to test for both of these units is the fact that we have 2. I've read some stuff about how basically we can set up 3 listings on Airbnb, a listing for one side, a listing for the other side, and then a listing for both sides. So if you have several families traveling together, we can actually book the entire building for that and charge a huge premium. So that about wraps it up for this episode. Make sure to subscribe, like I said, so you guys can stay up to date when we do finally drop this multiple part series for getting this thing built. And then I'm sure in that last episode on that series, we'll have all the furnishings in here where it's like Airbnb ready, totally wrapped up and all that type of stuff. So drop a comment down below if you have any questions about what we're doing as far as like this Airbnb stuff goes, or even just the normal stuff, the flipping and wholesaling company. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.